The Indicade Eco Game Jam is now in full swing. It's time for Sprint 2. If you haven't seen the video of Sprint 1, I highly recommend it, but if you don't feel like it, I guess I'll catch you up. Me and my team are making a game where you play as a robot, restoring the environment on a planet that went through an ecological disaster. You're going to be growing and researching plants in the present, while also learning about what happened in the past and how to prevent it. Sprint 1 was all about ideation, but Sprint 2 is all about pre-production, prototyping, and getting all the mechanics to work together to test things out, and getting all of our placeholder assets into the engine. This week went super quickly, and we had our ups.
Not your
Oh.
dad.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Let's fucking
My bad.
go.
And our downs.
What the fuck are you talking about, bro? Invalid type? What the fuck are you talking about?
But it's been super cool to see the project come to life. We felt like we did so good in the first sprint that even though this sprint was due on Monday night, we wanted to push ourselves to see if we could finish the requirements by Saturday. Me and Eden have never played Deltarune, but apparently when this jam started, a new chapter had come out and our other 4 teammates are obsessed. Eden told everybody that if we're able to complete our personal stretch goal by Saturday, that she would stream and play Deltarune for everybody. I don't know that much about Deltarune, but I'm excited to learn about it and I'm happy for everyone else. And it kind of lit a little bit of a fire under our asses. We've all just been pretty passionate about this, and everybody working so hard makes everybody else work even harder. And it's just been so much fun getting to work with this team of people. So without further ado, let's check out what we did this week. On day 8, Jade got started on making the purple versions of the sand for the more dangerous parts of the beach, and he started designing the interior of the creator's hut, which on day 9 he got to finishing. This is where the player spawns. It has your charging port, which is kind of acting as your bed. You can skip the night with it, and a computer which you'll be able to view documents on and other pieces of lore in here. Eden was working on fixing some bugs with the inventory as well as setting up the biodome, which is a different part of the inventory system, and I got to work making some simple UI for the biodome. And we decided to have the background be transparent, just like your tank. This is where you're going to grow a plant in your inventory. We were also talking about the environment interaction system of how to, say, chop trees or break rocks. Eden had gotten inspired from a game called Soulbound that we played together recently, where when you have to break a rock or something, there's a little bar that goes back and forth, and if you hit it just right, it takes less hits.
So you can spam
Cool.
it.
Oh, and it that's so good.
Oh,
That's
oh my god. I'm working it. I'm working it.
Whoa! Whoa.
So Hope got to making a sound effect for that. That would be the non-crit. A bunch of different options for the non-critting, just breaking things. And then later made some options for when you actually crit the object. Davin got to work making some pieces of dialogue for inside of the hut to go along with Jade's artwork. If you click on different objects, you'll get different pieces of lore and information, as well as he was working on fleshing out the backstory of our creator. They've started respecting my name of the scope-slinging slasher and treating me like a cryptid, but in reality I'm just a benevolent being that wants to make sure our scope stays small and reasonable. I had made this layout for the whole factory, and I sent this video to my team to showcase kind of how the player would move around. In the last video, I talked about how I took inspiration from Spiritfarer in the way that you can move around the world. In Spiritfarer, it's super fun and you can jump around, but because of our genre of game, it's going to be a top-down style with no jumping or anything like that. But I think it'll still be super fun and give you a sense of how large this factory is. I also took inspiration from Pixel Architect, who is making Chef RPG, especially with the colors. So the factory itself is going to be cool colors with purples and blues and grays, but the walking spaces and the doors I'm keeping more yellow and orange to clearly indicate to the players where they can and can't walk. And it also gives some contrast. You see the bright yellow door against the purple, and it just jumps out to you visually and gives a sense of light coming through the doors. I then mocked it up a little further and added some rough sketches of the interiors, I set it up so that a couple of the areas will not be accessible to the player at the very beginning. Because the player is going to find the lab on the left of the world coming from the right, the far right door I made it so it's locked at the very beginning, and you'll have to go through the kitchen door at the very start. This way the player is forced to kind of explore the entire factory, and then when they get to the far right door from the inside, they'll be able to unlock it, and for the rest of the game they'll be able to go into that very right door. The buildings on the right will also be the most useful to the player because they hold the actual mechanics, such as the tanks that you find. The left is more just for lore and backstory and flavor, so you won't be going there as often. And I sent another video to my team of how you'd kind of walk around and what buildings you'd go into. The big middle building in the background is going to be the museum. We're thinking of maybe having something similar to Stardew Valley. The player will be able to find artifacts from the humans in the past and take them to the museum to learn more about them and get rewards. But it's not exactly necessary at this stage. It's something we could cut if our scope is getting too large and taking too long, so I haven't designed that area yet. Jade was working on the centerpiece plants for each of our biomes. We're working on a beach and a forest, and each one is going to have one centerpiece plant. That will be a large reward for helping restore the biome, and these centerpiece plants are going to affect the other plants around them in a large radius. The next day they had taken it into A Sprite and mocked it up in a much larger sprite size than the other plants. Davin was working on some names for our NPCs, as well as getting into Godot and setting up some initial dialogue. I had gotten to work making some more sprites for the player character. After we put the initial sprite for the player character into the game, we realized it was fading into the background and we needed to add a bolder outline so it could stand out. I also mocked up the front, back, left, and right sprites. Usually when you're making a game like this, you only need to have one sprite for the side, and then in the game engine you can just flip it. However, because our player character is clear and not symmetrical, especially because of this algae tank on one side of his head, when he's facing to the right, the algae tank will be on the outside, covering up what's inside the tank, and when he's facing to the left, the algae tank will be on the back side of the player, and the plant on the inside will go on top of it, and the algae tank is kind of faded into the background. This definitely makes it more interesting. It just adds a little bit more work, but that's fun. And I really love that the player will be able to look at the plant inside of your tank a lot easier when you move around. I also upgraded one of the interiors a little bit. This is going to be the living quarters that you find. There's not much to do in here for the player, but it's going to be a great source of lore. This is where the employees of the lab would have slept, and you can find out a lot about them and their backstory. I made a little tile set for the bridges and ladders so it's easy to just place, but they looked too wooden and everybody felt that they should probably be metal, but I definitely wanted to keep them yellow and orange to go along with my concept for the colors. So I referenced these bright orange railings for the next tile set. Jade also made an even less detailed grass variant, which I think is best for the overall background, and then we decided to keep his grass tiles to make some variety on top as little extra assets. They also took the beach centerpiece into A Sprite, as well as some growth stages for the forest centerpiece. Max was adding some outlines to the objects you can interact with in the game, which really helps it stand out, and Eden got the inventory to work across scenes. She also started programming the biodome, and she had the idea for the information box to be darker with the green text on top because it's our accent color and it kind of ends up looking like a console, which I think was a great idea. I also whipped up a couple different inventory options for the almanac screen. It's going to start as folders. This screen is going to hold all of the information about every plant you've interacted with. So if this was a large game where you have multiple biomes, you'd want a way to organize it. So I made a little folder system, and then you'll have to click on the biome you're interested in, and then you'll be able to see every plant from that biome, kind of like a Pokédex. Davin started fleshing out our beaver NPC. This guy is going to be, surprise, a construction worker. Kind of reminded me of a Bear and Breakfast style character, which I love. And this NPC is going to teach us about building buildings and also ourselves, upgrading ourselves mechanically. And we also decided there's going to be a river in the map, and you're going to have to do a quest for the beaver to get him to build you a bridge so that you can cross it, and only then will you be able to find the lab. Indicade put on a little presentation with a climate expert. Jade was lovely, and he took screenshots while he was in there because none of us were around at that time. Davin also got started naming naming some of our plants. I worked for a while to clean up my sketches of the lab and the interiors. Because the end product of this sprint is to make a video showcasing it, I just wanted it to be a little more presentable and flesh it out to the point where it would be super easy to continue. Me and Jade decided that to split up the workload for the final assets, Jade is gonna work on the exterior of the lab while I work on the interiors. I'm much more comfortable working with the tiny sprites, and Jade is really good at the large environment pieces, so I think it's gonna come out really cool. It's very much placeholder flat colors right now, but when we're making the final pieces, we wanna make sure to really make it dingy, broken down, and overgrown with plants. To tell you a little bit about each room, you're first going to be able to go into the kitchen and then the living quarters, both of which just show you a little bit of lore. Then there's the centerpiece room in the middle with a big tank, which is going to be where the scientists were researching and growing a centerpiece plant like the ones from the forest and the beach, because we're thinking the plant they were researching might have been invasive. Then on the right is going to be the most useful ones. At the top is what we're calling the splicing lab. It will be where you could splice or graft different plants and genetically modify them. This is not always a bad thing. Yes, people can make harmful plants like this, but a lot of genetically modified plants are actually very beneficial. In the case of golden rice that you find at the grocery store, scientists genetically modified this rice to contain a very large percentage of vitamin A. This was because a lot of areas that were eating predominantly rice also had a large population of people with vitamin A deficiencies, and when the golden rice was introduced into their diets, it really helped with those problems. So some big themes in our game are one going to be about native versus invasive plants, why you should want to plant native plants in your garden at home, and be wary and conscious of invasive plants in your area. But also a big theme, especially with the lab, is that this negative technology that's harming our planet can also be used for good, and not to be scared of things like genetic modification in plants, because it's not inherently evil. I also made two little placeholder sprites for two of our NPCs, the turtle and the beaver, before hopping into Godot myself to set up the lab. Our programmer Max taught me how to set up scene transitions. It was pretty simple, and it just makes it so that when the player collides with something, they will teleport from one area to another. So I had to set this up for every door. I had to make 6 different scenes, and once I got the hang of it, it was pretty quick. Max was also working on the tool system. You're not going to have tools in your hotbar. It's going to be more like Animal Crossing, where you have kind of a wheel, or in our case, a list on the left-hand side, kind of to mimic more of a file system, where it'll pop up and you'll select whatever tool you want to utilize, and you'll just switch between them whenever you need a different one. Eden got the biodome to work in a lot of different ways. The plant will grow, the water will deplete, you can switch between different seeds, and if the plant quality goes down to 0, it will lie dormant, and if it stays like that for a while, it will die. But while it's dormant, if you bring it back up to 50% quality, you can save it. Also, while a plant is in your inventory, it doesn't decay, so you can always just save a plant in your inventory for later. But if a plant is dormant, you will not be able to plant that seed in the real world. Hope was also making a couple other sound effects, one that they think could be some background ambiance for the lab, and one that will maybe play quietly in the background while you're moving around. So on the final day of the sprint, everybody spent a while getting all of their pieces into the engine. Jade spent some time putting all of his tiles into a tile set in Godot and setting up the large map. But something went wrong when we were trying to merge everything together. We think there was just too many hands on it at once. Previously, it was only Eden and Max in Godot. I'm not exactly sure what went wrong because everybody was working in different scenes, but there was a lot of merge conflicts and it set us back a couple of hours trying to fix it.
Just on the shaders, man.
Yo, what is reset node? Like layout, CFG? What's in this? Like it's just some computer bullshit that we can't read.
Nobody.
And we actually didn't make the deadline. Eden's internet was comically slow, and when she was trying to upload her 6-minute video, it took almost an hour. Thankfully, Indicade was able to give us a link to submit it late because I had typed in the support channel in the Discord before the deadline that we were having issues. We're definitely gonna try to submit things a day early from now on. So yeah, we finished out Sprint 2, and it's time to move on to Sprint 3. We have some time to review other people's progress. There's a couple games we're pretty excited to see progress, but I I will say the amount of games that joined an environmental game jam only to use copious amounts of AI art was a little startling, but the amount of people that have been working so hard and putting a lot of time and effort into this is so cool to see. And I'm so excited to see what everyone else does with the rest of the month. Sprint 3 is going to be even longer. It's going to be about 16 days, and it's really the home stretch before the polish and marketing phase. So I'll see you guys at the end of July or early August, and I hope you've enjoyed following along with our progress.